Sadly, there is still such a stigma when it comes to men's mental health.
Yes.
And today we're going to explore why there's such a stigma and how we, as a collective, can change this before it's too late. As we know, there's many reasons why men don't get help. There is, the macho mentality,
Yeah.
like, ooh, you're
The
tough, you're strong,
masculinity
you don't
behind
need
it.
help. The toxic masculinity, basically, the
Hmm.
messaging that, and it's really sad too, because like boys and men are taught this from the time they're like born, basically. Like,
Yeah.
you're a man, be a man, you know?
Yeah.
And it's
There's
just
such
so
a stigma
toxic.
behind manhood itself. And I
Yes.
feel like the main thing we have to break in order to break the stigma around mental health for men is the stigma around manhood and what it means to be a man.
Yes, thank
You
you.
know?
Because you can be a man and be in touch with your emotions. You can be a man
Yeah.
and have sensitivities. You can be a man and fucking cry.
If
Like, that's
anything, it makes you more of a man because you're taking these steps to help yourself, which in the end, in the long run, is going to help your family, your loved ones,
yeah.
everyone you care about.
And from a woman's perspective, a woman that's married, to me, it's very attractive when men
Yeah.
open up
And have
and
some
they're
vulnerability with you. Yeah.
yeah, and they're not afraid to express their feelings. They're not afraid to cry if they need to, or to get help with therapy or something for their mental
Therapy,
health.
doctor's appointments.
Yeah,
I mean, it's so
medication.
bad these days to the point of not even just mental health, but physical health.
Yeah.
There's a stigma behind that when it comes to men.
The way I see it, like, I hate how there's so many, like we're talking about stereotypes.
Right.
And you see like sensitive men or men that are more in touch with their
Right.
emotions. They're very feminized.
Right.
And that kind of pisses me off because
No.
just because a man decides to like show his feelings or he's just more sensitive, that's just his personality. That doesn't make him more of a female, and even if it does, what's the
Right.
big deal? There's nothing wrong with being a female, like.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with a man having some feminine attributes about themselves.
Right,
At the end of the
exactly.
day, every person has a balance between feminine and masculine energy.
Mhm.
Even me. I think of myself as more masculine energy than feminine.
Yeah.
Does that make me a man? No. So why is
No,
it looked at any differently when it comes to men?
exactly. It's just the stigmas and the stereotypes, once again, for men and women
Yes.
all over the world. And it's really sad because it makes men feel like if they feel like they need help or they want help, they get embarrassed. If something
Right.
is wrong with their mental health or they don't know how to control their emotions, they get embarrassed and ashamed about it. And instead of dealing with it, they decide to just bury and compartmentalize all their problems and hide them away instead of ever getting the proper help that they need.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
Or take it
detrimental.
out or deal with it with bad habits.
Mm, like
You know,
alcohol.
bad voids for it. Or
Exactly.
what's the word? Vices, like
This
bad
is
vices for it, you know?
Yes, exactly. They
So,
can sometimes they end up turning to alcohol or drug addiction,
or like addicted to
obsession,
gambling, just
or
whatever it is, whatever makes them feel better in that moment
yeah,
without getting the
exactly.
actual real help that they need.
Yeah, and because of this whole stigma, and because us as a society have made men feel like they're not able to get help and that they should be embarrassed if they do, it's led to this horrible statistic, and we'll put this up on the screen for those watching.
Yes.
According to the Kaiser Family Foundation, there were 48,183, I'm going to say, unalivings in the US in 2021. And out of those, out of the 48,000, 38,352 were men.
Wow.
You cannot tell me there is not a problem here. You cannot tell me that.
Yeah.
And that's so sad to me that someone's, life was cut short because people shame them into thinking that they don't need to get therapy, they don't need medication that could balance their brain, honestly, because sometimes it does come down to a brain disorder and you need the proper medication for that.
Yep. Yep.
It's really sad. And I feel like we've made progress in the world of mental health, but there are still many, many steps to take to really get somewhere, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to men and mental health. It's just not talked about enough.
It's not. And I actually got a suggestion from one of our followers.
Oh, okay.
Um, and they just wanted to point out the struggles of men being taken advantage of and not setting proper boundaries. And
Yes.
I feel like that's a big part of things because
Mhm.
I feel like with men it can be harder for them to set boundaries. But that just comes along with the ego of like feeling like
Mhm.
they have to take charge of everything. They
Yeah.
have to be the leader. Everyone has to lean on them, but they have no one to depend on. Like men,
Yeah.
they have to be setting boundaries too. There's only so much that you can do. It
Hmm.
is perfectly fine to split up duties and tasks of
Yeah.
just everyday things with your partner or with your family
Yeah.
and set boundaries for yourself when it comes to relationships, work, just everything. And I feel like I said before, um, men will indulge in self-destructive behaviors instead of
Hmm.
getting help because they feel
Hmm.
like they'll be treated differently or it'll diminish their masculinity.
Yeah.
And the only way that we can help as a society or just personally with our loved ones,
Hmm.
our friends, our relationships, our family, whatever, is to reshape the perceptions of manhood.
Yes.
Whenever you have, if you hear your loved one talking down on themselves when it comes to manhood, or just kind of treat it like you would with anything else when trying to have a positive mindset, and instead of being like, no, you're wrong, don't ever say that, replace it with something positive. Now, you don't want
Mm.
to practice toxic positivity.
But positive reinforcement,
Positive
basically.
reinforcement, exactly. Don't make them feel belittled by being
Yeah.
positive, but just enforce them. Like, I know you feel this way, but it's going to be okay because we can take these steps to make it better. Like
Basically
that.
validate them because a lot of people out there aren't
Validation.
validating men or
No, and
women.
that's another reason why they don't feel like coming forward because they come forward and then they get told, oh, just man up, or oh, you'll be fine. It's just this, or, like,
Oh, boohoo, what are you gonna do? Cry about it? Just get over it.
exactly.
Really sad too because this, once again, this starts at an early age because if a girl falls off of her bike and scrapes her knee, oh, poor thing, here's a band-aid, and she's
Yeah.
crying and the parents are comforting her. But if a boy falls, like, just dust it off, you'll be fine. And like, that's
Yeah.
not toxic. They need validation too. They need comforting too. They need
Right.
sympathy as well.
We also have to look into the healthcare system and make sure that they're getting a deeper training on this subject matter as well. Because not only was society treating men inadequately whenever it comes to their health, you also have healthcare professionals that have the same mindset because they learned it just like we did. And
Yeah,
they need to
that's
unlearn it.
that's so true. That's really what it comes down to with a lot of problems in society is we need to work on unlearning this brainwashing that
Yes.
we got some way or another because my therapist who will actually be on this podcast
So
soon,
excited.
very exciting, she always tells me that we're not born thinking badly about ourselves. We don't
No, we're taught it.
enter this world preconditioned into hating our bodies or feeling ashamed about our feelings. These are learned behaviors, whether it's from our family, our
Exactly.
friends, media, society.
School. Yeah.
Hmm.
I just feel like everyone should try to put in a little more effort, not only when it comes to their loved ones, but also just anyone that you may be interacting with that is a man that is trying to be vulnerable and
Hmm.
encourage it, praise it.
Yeah.
Also, another thing as a family member or loved one that you can be doing to try to help make, your significant other or your loved one feel more comfortable is being vulnerable yourself, being super
Mm,
open and honest when it comes to your healthcare, your mental health, being showing your vulnerability and getting them used to and comfortable to your vulnerability, and that will automatically make them slowly over time become more comfortable being vulnerable in front of you as well.
so basically, be the example for them.
Yeah, and we do that with, like, let's say we're dating someone, we're in a serious
Yeah.
relationship. We
Hmm.
do that. I feel like
Yeah.
most people naturally learn to be vulnerable around their partner, but we don't
Hmm.
do it as much when it comes to friends and family, and that's where the issues lie. Because yeah, your significant other can tell you all of these encouraging things, but then you
Hmm.
have that stigma in your head of, are they just saying this because they love me and care about me? Is it really the truth?
Yes.
So if you have
Yes.
other people that are your friends, family, strangers, even doctors that are also being vulnerable or praising your vulnerability, then it just proved even more, you know?
Absolutely. Work on creating a space where men feel comfortable and encouraged to talk about their feelings and talk about what they're going through mentally. If you have a male family friend or a friend, please, please be sure to check in on them. You never know what they
Yeah.
might be dealing with. You never know what kind of place they're in mentally. Don't forget to check on them too. Um,
Especially if they're showing signs. I know they don't
yes.
always. Men like to suffer in silence, but if they're showing signs, please take the time to ask because it could
Yeah.
literally mean their life.
And then
Yeah.
men who are struggling with your mental health, if you're going through something, please have a conversation with someone that you trust and someone that you're
Yeah.
comfortable with and that will validate your feelings. Try to get some good advice out of them or at least get the negativity out of your system by
And
venting
don't be
because
afraid to go to a therapist.
yes,
You know,
absolutely.
there's such a
Mhm.
bad stigma behind that too. And if you feel like you don't want to go to your loved one because you're going to get a biased opinion,
Right.
or you just don't want them to know your business that way, just go to a therapist. I know sometimes it's harder to find one that you like. If you got to go through 5 or 6 of them before you find the one, do it.
I had to do that.
Yeah.
It was
It's like
quite a
dating.
process.
You're not gonna be in a long term relationship with the first person you date, most likely. If you don't like them, move on
Exactly.
to the
Just as important
next.
I don't want to say date your therapist, but you get what I'm saying. The worst thing you can do, and this is speaking from personal experience, is stay in your home and isolate yourself and shut yourself off from the
Yeah.
world. Loneliness and isolation are huge factors when it comes to unaliving yourself, unfortunately. A lot of times
Yeah.
people feel like they don't have anyone and that they're alone and they don't have a support system, and that can really lead to these feelings of doom and that you have no purpose in this world.
Yeah.
So socialization is important. We are social creatures as humans. It's very important for us to at least get some kind of socialization. And then the last part is spread awareness. Mental health
Yes.
is a widespread issue, as we know, that affects men and women all over the world. Share resources as often as you can to mental health.
Yeah.
There are many available nowadays. We live in a good age for that. We'll also share some that we find in the description of this video for
Yeah.
sure.
I know there's
Um,
also a lot of good groups. Like if you're on Facebook, that's always a good
mhm.
option too.
And also, YouTube has a bunch of great therapists on there. Also, when it comes to spreading awareness, like Kaylin talked about earlier, it's very important to make sure we're challenging gender stereotypes, especially when it comes to men's mental health and just
Yeah.
how, a man doesn't always have to look like, this big, tough, whatever. He can also look different from that. And same for women. And that's okay. And
Right.
society needs to know that and society needs to change that. So let's together
Yeah.
work on building a space where we can all feel safe to share our feelings and take care of our mental
Right.
health. And do not be afraid to get help and do not be afraid to try therapy. It might be for you.
Exactly.